there's no home setup. My home and office is right next by it, so I don't have
Got
a
it.
home setup.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Awesome. I think now the lines have blurred so much. Uh, it's hard to recognize where is home and where is office.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, that's true. That's true. But for me, right, because my home and office are like pretty close by, so that line is always blurred.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like our entire team is like working from home, so it's literally the same thing, right? Like there isn't even that kind of a differentiation. It's not even in the next building. It's literally the same place, right? So, uh, but yeah, like I mean, just keeping everybody safe as well.
Yeah,
Still,
that's
people
true.
are falling sick, right? So,
Yeah, you can help that.
all right, awesome. So looks like we're live. So welcome everybody. My name is Mayank Grover. I'm founder of Outscal, and today I have Abhinav with us. Abhinav is the founder of Zatun. Am I saying that right? Zatun?
Zatun.
Zatun.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a very interesting name. So probably I'll ask you a question on that later. But welcome, Abhinav, and thank you for taking up the time and joining us today. And it's really good to have fellow founders from gaming studios. Probably very few folks have been in this business for longer than a decade and a half, and you're one of those as well. So really good to have you today. Get to learn a little bit about your journey and how you're seeing sort of the future kind of shape up as well, right? So welcome. Any sort of opening words that you want to add in as well?
Well, thanks a lot, Matt. I really appreciate your having me here, and I'm excited for it. And thanks a lot for the kind words. Thank you so much.
Perfect. I think we already have something. Say one of our students mentioning that it's an Arabic word. Is that the background for Zatun? Like just start with that
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. So Zaitun and Arabic means olives, but we wanted to give a different name. I think we had a different name, like Evil Monkey Studios or something, but that was a bit too long, and we wanted it short, so that's why we kind of thought about the name Zaitun.
Okay,
Right.
that's very interesting.
Right. And the fun part is no one is able to spell it correctly, so it's fine.
But yeah, I mean, as long as somebody types your name correctly in Google and you're the first one that shows up, right? Like that's bingo, right? I guess in today's world. So that's where even like Outscape is misspelled intentionally without an E, so that when somebody searches exactly the same thing with a typo, we are always going to be the first one that shows up no matter what. There's never a confusion.
That's good. That's good. But with us, either you land up with a game studio or you land up with someone who's selling olives.
Okay, then I guess from context also the person can derive which one they want to go to, right? If they know, okay, I'm reaching out to a game studio. But awesome, cool. So like I noticed that you started your career back in art vertical. You were briefly even working with Ubisoft as well, if I'm not mistaken. And then you took the plunge after a year or so to start your own studio. And I think the last 13, 14 years, 15 years, you've been doing your own game studio as well. So walk us a little bit about how the inception way back in the day came about of starting the studio. What was the motivation and how you got started?
Right. So I'll just start from the beginning. So I graduated from Bangalore Film School, and then I wanted to come back to India. So I came back to India, worked as a student in Mumbai, and then went back again. And then worked in Vancouver as a 3D artist for a game company, a web company. And then in 2014, I got a job at Ubisoft Montreal, where I was there for almost 2 years, working on a lot of titles. At that time, I think in 2005-6, there was a lot of outsourcing boom in India. And I said, led because my family was here and had just been married. So I thought, let me go back and see what the buzz is about. And that's how I came back. Me and a friend of mine, we were planning to. He was from Sweden, and we both were planning to start this company in India. And he did come over here, but I think it didn't work out. The weather and the circumstances at the time didn't work out. And I said, let me, as such, I'm here, let me give it a shot as to how it goes. And in 2007, Zatun was established.
So, like, was there a dedicated thing that you wanted to try out when you were starting out the studio? Like, did you have like a very clear kind of a strategy in mind, or was it like you just want to try this out as this is a passion thing that we want to explore and take a plunge and figure it out as we go along?
I think it was more of a passion thing. There was no plan as such. Right? I mean, maybe in 1998, if you had told me that 10 years down the line I'll be having my own game studio, I would have laughed it off. right? I didn't even know that I wanted to go into games. That happened by chance. Right? So it just happened. It was just something that, if I'm here for a while, let me try out what happens. I'll give it a year. If it works out, I'm good. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back. Right.
Got it. And like, was there ever a time, where you did think about going back? Things were like looking dire, and there's always that self-doubt that, oh shit, did I make a wrong mistake? Did I leave a comfy, cushiony career and take this plunge? And now, holy fuck, what the hell am I doing?
And there was. I mean, I would be lying if there was not. I think it was a kind of. There was a lot of things in play because I was staying alone, right, having a nice single life. Coming over here, I think things changed, right? That was one. Secondly, it took me time to adjust to the way of working. I came from a very cold climate back to a very warm climate. Even though I was born and raised up over here, I think 6 or 7 years did change a few things. So I think getting set, I think took time. But I think once I got kind of set over here, I didn't think about it that much. But those thoughts did come, right? I would be lying if I said.
But was there like some kind of a, like personally, in my sort of entrepreneurship journey in the last 6 years, I know like two very strong moments where I was like, holy shit, did I make a wrong mistake? Right? Like were there like those things, like specific instances, and feel free to share if you're publicly okay about it as well.
Sure.
Something that might have triggered that.
Right. So I think I'll just put in a very, I don't know, straightforward or the way I feel. So the more urge I have to take a vacation, right? That's when I realized that, okay, what the shit is going too high. I just need to play right now. Okay. So, but there were moments, I think, especially with our first game, when we made it out, I think, we had a very grand idea of it. Our developer at that time, he left. We had to pass on from Italy to develop the game and take it ahead. There were times, when things were not working out. And especially when things are not working out, you kind of question yourself and whether you're on the right track or not, right? But I think just try to keep calm and just try to keep on going on. And for me, I think there was never this thing that I want this to be this big or I wanted to go this crazy this way. It was just just okay, we are here. I mean, we like what we're doing, and just try to give it a shot. That is what it was.
Yeah. I think I totally agree with you there, right? Like you just have to stay calm, because at the end of the day, if you are doing something crazy, there will be ample points of failure. But if you have conviction in terms of that what you're doing is the right thing, then it's all about time. It's just that a matter of time before things starts to click and fall into place. So you just have to give it time as well, right? So I totally agree. A lot of people, just kind of give up right before that phase. And I think this is a lesson that doesn't just apply to entrepreneurship. It applies to pretty much every sort of career roadmap, right? Like, things suck in the beginning. No matter what you do, how good you are, right? They do suck, and shit every time hits the fan.
It does. I mean, there's a new shit to deal with. I mean, if you're having a business, there's a new shit to deal with every day. Either it's a client, either it's a work, either it's a team. There's something or there's always something going on. But that's what it is. I mean, you sign up for this. So you cannot say, oh, it's too busy, it's too hard for me. You cannot be quiet. Let me support that, right? You have to face it, take it out. Okay, you know what? Hair to hair, right? Okay.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah. Better think of a solution rather than trying to complain about it, right? I think it applies to engineering, it applies to art, it applies to design. All of these principles are probably more emphasized in entrepreneurship, but they apply to almost all disciplines as well, right?
Very true.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the company. What's the focus? What kind of projects that you guys are working on? Anything that you can share, etc.
Sure. So as I said, we started from 2007, and when we started off, our main thing was that we wanted to do art outsourcing, and that's how we started off. And in 2008, we kind of realized that let's also have our own games. I mean, there's nothing wrong in that. So we started with our first game called the Legend of Wells. We started that idea for it, started the development for it in 2009. That game was made on the Microsoft XNF framework, and we released the game in 2010. That game was sold for PC. And what happened was that we had spent almost like 14 months of time on development and everything. And when it came to marketing, we had no money left, right?
Mm.
So whenever we went to distributors in India to try to distribute it through retail channel or through any other channels, I think it didn't work out. Also, there was no Amazon at that point in time, and getting on Steam wasn't as straightforward as just paying $100.
Yeah.
So, but the game, what happened was that when a few months down the line, when I talked with other people who had tried to make similar games on the same platform, the XNF framework, a lot of them had spent maybe a lot more money than what we had, a lot more time than what we had, and they never completed it. We had completed it and had the product out there. So that was a kind of a motivation thing for me to go on and go on further. So from there, we started working on iOS, Android games and Facebook games and so on and so forth. So now our main focus is on four core areas. We do game art for clients, so we do work for hire for clients, which includes game art and game dev. Game dev for iOS, Android, PC VR, PlayStation VR, and game art on all platforms. Apart from that, we work on our own IP as well, right? And we also do VR simulations. Coming to our IP side of things, we after the Legend of Us game, we made quite a few iOS Android games. And in 2016, we decided to go into VR because for iOS and Android games, we felt that the marketing was a key component which we lacked. That is one. Secondly, there was a lot of competition. So if everything is based on user acquisition, I think that there's a limit to which you can push it. After that, the shelf value of the game is pretty low. Yeah. Unless until you have a very you put that much effort into just making it as a live ops game. So we then shifted to VR and we released our first game called Sniper West VR in 2018 and updated for the same game in 2019. That game was for Oculus Rift, Rifters, HTC Vive, and Steam. And recently we have released a game called Down and Out, which is made in the Unreal Game Engine. That is for Oculus Rift S and Steam. That game will be released for PlayStation VR and Quest later this year. We're just in the final stages of QA for that.
Okay. So in this case, like switching to VR primarily was a strategy change because of the limitation on the marketing capital, right? Like if I'm not mistaken.
I think not just that. Apart from that, what we thought was that, being in the industry for maybe almost 8-9 years, we had realized that there were waves. So there was waves that you could, like there was the iOS, the Apple wave, the Facebook games wave, the Android games wave, the free-to-play games wave, right? So there were different waves that came and went. Since Oculus got acquired by Facebook, that got our attention that, now this is something that's going to be huge. Right. So this is something that could have maybe 5 or 10 years down the line. This is what it could be. It could be massive. So that's why we decided to go into it. Marketing was one. I mean, we could easily have made say one game a month, just release it and just pushed it, right? But on the long-term side of things, how long could we have done it? Like if we had say, maybe 5 games or 10 games or 12 games releasing a year, how long could we sustain that for each and every month, right? Or maybe each and every year. So this was more of a long-term strategy that let's divert to this area. Also because, I myself am a console gamer. So I was never kind of too keen on playing on, phones, right? So VR also gave us space to explore. VR also gave us a space to kind of play or make those games that we always wanted to do, but limited to.
So normally, like when you guys are thinking through on like initially the desktop games and the mobile games, and then now the era of the VR games as well, right? Like what's the like the decision-making process behind greenlighting a project? Because like when you are in the brainstorming phase and the prototyping phase, there are a bunch of options on the table. So what kind of strategy have you guys used in the past? Either strategies that might have worked really well and others that might not have worked so well as well, right? So shed some light there.
Sure. So what happened was that when we decided to work on our first VR game, Sniper VR, we were actually making a game on mobile called Sniper 3D. So what we thought that, hey, we could just port the game from mobile to VR, and we were completely wrong, right? So, but the initial gameplay, the web gameplay that we had, I think that kind of excited us, and then we decided to make a game out of that. After Sniper VR, we brainstormed a lot of ideas in terms of what we wanted to do. but the thing is that the game development, the games that we make, like VR games, they easily take maybe 9 months to a year to make it, right? So the idea has to be very exciting enough for us to last that 1 year. So we had this very amazing idea about aliens and stuff like that for VR. It was a very amazing idea, but it would have taken up a lot of time. There were other ideas as well, which were like, okay, it's been something like this has been done before. This is a bit too common, or this might not work. So finally, we came across this down and out idea, which was, you have a homeless person. So it was like a street fighting, but with a kind of open map. So it's like a mini version of Grand Theft Auto. And I think it's not been done in VR before. So we just wanted to attempt that. So this was supposed to be a very small prototype, but it just kind of went on, and sometime in August 2020, we were ready with the game, and but when we played it, we were not happy with it. So we said, what, this is, I don't want to put this shit out there. It looks like garbage. So we again went back to the drawing table. We did quite a few stuff. We did quite a few game mechanics. We did some of the gameplay, game design, and finally released a submitted game. We finished the game sometime in June or July this year. Oh, sorry, June or July 2021.
So this is something that majority of people who are just entering the space don't realize, that how many games get cancelled right before launching.
Right.
So here, like you mentioned that like the game just didn't feel good, it didn't look good, like we were not very proud of pushing it out in the market, right?
Right.
So in that journey, what do you think went wrong, right? Like, because I'm sure in the beginning of the project, everybody's pumped up to say, fuck yes, let's make the best possible game, and everybody's on board. But then during the journey, where do you think was the pivotal failure, or what caused that cascading events that led to a game where you feel like, fuck it, right? Like this is not good, right?
Right. So what happened was that, when we started to work on the game sometime in Jan 2020, right? And then COVID hit, and then, and sometime in August 2020, we had like the core version of the game. And at that point in time, I think when we played the game, it was not like fun, right? It was, my main thing is that when I put the game out there, I should be able to enjoy it. I should be able to have fun with it. And people should be able to have fun with it. If it's not fun, then it makes no sense to me, for me to put that much, effort, time, and money into this. So at that point in time, what we had, like we had touched a few areas, but it was still not something that, I could put it out there and say, and say proudly that, hey, we have made it, right? So if I'm putting something out there, it's a company's name that goes there. So I cannot put a studio product out there. So at that point in time, we realized that, okay, we have the core thing, which is there, like the open area is there, but the combat is not fun enough. The quests, there are very few quests that the player can play, right? And there is not much, flow in the game. So, it kind of feels broken. So we again went back to the drawing board. We improved the combat quite a bit. We kind of introduced new quests in the game, and we worked on the quest. And then when we had maybe 4 or 5 months down the line, when we played the game, that game was fun. Also, I think when for VR games, I think time is pretty important, right? So gameplay time. So if we have a game which is, say, 30 minutes, no one is going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right. But if your game, so our game earlier was, got over in 30 minutes. Now the minimum gameplay time is 1.5 to 2 hours minimum. Right. So that is why that extra time that we spent, extra maybe 6 months or 8 months, whatever, we reached that timeline of 1.5 or 2 months. Right. Also, we could charge higher. So right earlier, right now the game is selling for 14.99, right? Instead of say 5.99, to be pretty honest.
Got it. I think that's a very interesting thing, right? Like if you go back to the drawing board, you can come up with, you can sometimes still salvage the project as well, right?
True,
it's not like that 100% of the time that the project is going to go to the dustbin.
Right.
So, okay, awesome. So right now, what's the roadmap ahead? How are you thinking about sort of the next kind of projects that are in the pipeline? Anything on the horizon that where you are even adding in blockchain to the ecosystem? Maybe I'm not heard of anybody saying blockchain and VR in the same sentence. Maybe that's what's happening here. Like, so give us some insights. What's happening?
Right. So our first and primary focus is to just release the game for PlayStation VR, because that's our main core device, if I may, right? And it's been a tough time. It's been a long while, rather, not a tough time, because we were waiting for approval on Oculus, which took 3 months. So that took a lot of our time away. And we were also, it's funny because sometimes in life, we were like, oh, this is a big thing. This is going to take time. You're kind of scared. But when you actually do it, it's the fastest thing that you can do. Right. Right. So we were like, oh, PlayStation port, how will we do it? It's going to take a long time. And, we got that thing done in a month. Right. So the entire game was ported from PC to PlayStation in less than a month. Right. And so now we had to kind of figure it out how to release it. Also, PlayStation has a lot of different regions. So we just try to figure it out, what works best for our way. So that is where we are kind of at right now. To give a bit of idea about the future, I think we want to release the game on PlayStation this year, pretty soon. And we're also looking at other areas where we can kind of which are trending, where we can kind of be a part of.
So by trending, you're hinting at is the Web3 ecosystem?
I can't share much, but let me just put it this way, that whatever is trending right now, we do hope that we can be a part of it.
Got it. So, but generally, what's your sort of broader take on the market and how the business inside the games are evolving with NFTs coming into the equation, a lot of blockchain-based games, play-to-earn based. So, like, just give us a broad take. Like, where are you seeing this industry heading? Are you positive, bullish on the new kind of, business models, community ownership kind of ecosystems that are starting to flourish within the gaming ecosystem broadly?
Right. So, I think when free-to-play came out sometime in 2013, I guess it was, right? Or 2012, like, games were free, and then, they were freemium games, and, you had to pay for in-app purchases. That was a new concept. And I'm seeing the same thing right now with NFTs, that, there was a lot of resistance that time for in-app purchases and free-to-play. And the same thing is happening right now with the NFTs. But with NFTs, I think, and it's not mainstream yet, but unless until people or studios can find a way to make it mainstream, right, like the free-to-play games, I think it might go in a very different direction. That is what I'm hoping for. Also, since it's all blockchain and crypto, it's going to be limited to a very lesser audience, right? Right. And also, because for free-to-play, there is no boundary, right? I mean, there is no people can just download and play, right? But for this one, I think with the NFTs and everything, and since it's linked to the wallet, and since crypto.com lost a lot of money, OpenSea got hacked, so we need to kind of figure it out where, how safe that would be going ahead, especially when it combines to a blockchain and that combines to a game.
Yeah, I think I completely agree that in order for it to have sort of more mainstream adoption, I think blockchain almost needs to take some sort of a background role, right? Right now, it's like, oh, Axie Infinity is popular because it's a play-to-earn game, right? But the play-to-earn mechanism can be built in any game. It doesn't need a blockchain ecosystem for that, right? So, what sort of majority folks sort of end up missing, at least, I mean, this is my sort of broader thesis around it, is that like you said, right, like that mainstream adoption will only happen when, if I go to the Play Store today or any Steam store, etc., as long as I have an account there, I just download and play, right? That's how even the blockchain games need to evolve to that sort of a seamless where, okay, if I need a wallet and the moment I download and start playing a game, just create my fucking wallet in the background, right? Like, why do I really need to go to some third party, connect my account, put this hash code, blah, blah, blah. So I think for mass user adoption, it's that sort of a user experience layer that needs to be solved to a certain extent. And obviously technology is going to be the thing that will help you solve that. But all that process needs to happen in the background in order for like majority users to adopt these systems and bring it to massive, right? Right now, we're still in the early adopters phase where only people within the gaming ecosystem and investors and other tech savvy folks are the ones who are actually playing. But these things are not yet seeing adoption across the industries, right? So
that's true. And also one point that I wanted to share is that a lot of those games are all WebG, so they are browser-based games. So for maybe I'm not sure how many people would play games on the browser after
Yeah.
I think that's just one more audience, but it's a niche audience. So you're talking to people who have played, say, World of Warcraft, right? Or
Yeah.
League of Legends, and asking them to play this game. So I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how excited they would be to play those games.
Yeah.
And there's nothing stopping World of Warcraft from creating an NFT. If they do it, right? I mean, you just lost your entire USP right there.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And I mean, the same applies for like, Candy Crush. And
Candy Crush or even Grand Theft Auto, right? Like Grand Theft Auto, I mean,
exactly.
Once they have an NFT, so I think, how are you even going to compete with that? You can't.
I think there was some pushback. Like I think Ubisoft had announced some NFT drop or something. Right. I forgot which game it was. Maybe somebody can drop it in the chat. But they got some major pushback in terms of how the players were. Like they were asking the players to grind for like 150 hours to get that NFT or some shit like that. So I think the execution was horrible there on the studio's part.
Right.
But I think there will be still a lot of experiments. I think we are still at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what these ecosystems really are enabling. And I think one big beef that I have with the existing games is that they're pretty much rip-off of existing games that are already out there in the Web2 world and popular, right? So there are games that are like card collecting games like Hearthstone, right? So there is a equivalent of an Hearthstone with a new art skin to it and just with a blockchain slapped on top, right? So they really haven't invented anything in terms of mechanics and design, but they are spinning off things that are popular in the existing ecosystem and putting them on the blockchain without really thinking hard around designing from the ground as to what really makes sense for a blockchain based game versus a non-blockchain game, right? Like what really differentiates the two. I think those are the kind of things that the industry still needs to evolve and figure out. And I think it'll take it another 4 or 5 years to really get to that stage where, there are blockchain native games in some sense. That's it. I don't know. But
I think
are you seeing...
That's true.
Sorry, what you're saying?
No, yeah, I think that's true. And I think a lot of the people who are doing it, they're just doing it because they want to get investment, or they just want to show some fancies to investors. And I'm also not sure how long will this game last. Maybe while there is an initial euphoria about it, maybe I'm not sure if 2 years down the line, if this game will still be, the studios will still be there.
Yep, absolutely. But are you seeing any kind of intersection at like ARVR space with blockchain as well? Like, have you seen any interesting projects or because you've been working in this space more than I have, maybe you have seen something that I have not?
Well, two ways to put it, right? So just having working in the space for too long, doesn't mean that I'm very good at it, right? I could still be learning, right? But I haven't still seen anything that is a mixture of AR, VR with blockchain yet, right? Because VR, I think it's pretty much focused towards the game mechanic point of view, towards the game point of view. So I think they haven't touched that. Also, one point I would have to share is that people who have paid for the game, right? Suppose you have paid a game for maybe whether it's $1, whether it's $10 or $40. After having to earn or grind for the NFT, which you said, that would really piss people off. Right. Right. So basically, if you have a game that's premium, everything needs to come with it, right? You don't need to spend maybe 2 hours for that. Right.
Correct. Yeah. No, I think I 100% agree. Like Fortnite and other free-to-play games having that grindy kind of a mechanic to unlock some special rewards, etc. I think it makes sense, but premium games usually seems like there's a misalignment in interest from the studio versus the players, right? So I think on the ARVR topic, Josh had a question regarding what are you generally broadly seeing, in terms of scope for the upcoming years in AR, MR, VR space overall.
I think I'm mostly to VR, so I don't have much idea about AR, right, or MR. So mostly in the VR space, I think with the PSVR 2 coming, it might change quite a few things, right? That is one. Secondly, there will be a wider adoption of VR in the mainstream. Meta has totally messed shit up right now, but I think if they can get the act together, they might still be, number one device seller or platform, or number one platform for VR next year as well, right? So maybe with a newer version of Oculus coming in and with a newer version of PSVR 2 coming in, right? I think that might really make things interesting. There'll be more and more. There are already more and more studios mainstream studios now that are also making VR games, right? So in 2016 or 17, there was no Ubisoft making VR game. Now there are studios making dedicated VR games. So I think there's a space there. Earlier, there were not many studios making a lot of money. Now, I think there are studios making a fairly decent amount of money in VR. So that area is only gonna go up.
But are you seeing like, because I'm seeing this strong trend of VR also getting adopted in other industries outside of gaming as well, right?
Sure.
So there's definitely purely from a development lens perspective, right? There is strong macro forces pushing it towards like VR education in schooling and other industrial training. So there are a lot of these industrial use cases where I'm seeing a lot of big companies coming up that are building products from outside the gaming space itself, right? Like, so what's your general take? Like, do you see that becoming a big sector in itself as well?
So we ourselves have done, VR training solutions for health and defense industries, right? So that's an area which is there for sure. So for enterprise, it's AR. There is no doubt about that. I think HoloLens and the devices or headsets, they are pretty much strong in the AI space and they're doing well. And enterprise is the top one. For training, especially say defense or mechanical training or say health, right? Health, I'll just use a general term health. I think there's a lot of interest in VR for that because that's a lot of stuff that you can do. For education, I'm not too sure because I would not want a 10-year-old kid to wear a VR headset and for 3 hours or 4 hours and done, right? Especially when the textbook serves a purpose. So if to give an example, so if you're doing a nursing simulation, which is what we have done for one of our clients, getting a human body, getting a space, getting a bed, everything is pretty expensive, right? But if you can do that in VR, right, you don't need the bed, you don't need the human body, you don't need anything. So that makes it cheaper. That also makes it easier for the person to share what they're trying to, or share the entire procedure, or share the entire training. So it's easier. So wherever there is, maybe say wherever the technology or wherever the area which can save on maybe time, space, and making it quicker, that will have a wider adoption for the VR training.
Yeah, I think broadly, like if you can save on like logistics, or if the setup is very complicated, those kind of scenarios, like training firefighters to fight forest fires. It's just not a scenario that you can replicate in the real world very easily. So I think those kind of scenarios suit very well to a more pseudo-realistic kind of a VR environment, and provide enough sort of repeatability that people can repeat that simulation over and over again. So the use cases fit really well as well. But I'm not sure how big the scope of the industry is. Like, are there multiple billion-dollar companies coming into the space? Not yet sure, but definitely there are strong businesses to be built overall, right?
True. I think that's true. On the enterprise side, there were a lot of businesses that are doing pretty well in the AR space. That's for sure. But in the VR space, I think there were a lot of studios or companies doing training, right? Maybe for a lot of different areas. There's a lot of architecture work as well, right? So I think that's one point, which is the architecture. And I think VR walkthroughs are pretty getting more and more popular, right? So that's one area there as well.
Yeah, I think the firefighting, or sorry, not the firefighting, pilot training simulation that you mentioned in the chat is also a very good example. Otherwise, these are like multi-million-dollar things that proper companies used to set up so that it's like a cockpit, and now you're just wearing a headset, and it still does a close enough job. Maybe not exactly the same, but then close enough. Josh has an interesting question, right, regarding potential sort of manufacturing facilities in India coming up for components and hardware components, especially around VR. Like, is that something that you're aware of? Because I have no freaking idea about manufacturing.
I would not have any idea on that as well, right? Also, since you talked about India, I think GeoGlass might change a few things when it does launch, right? Because that's a very exciting product that might be coming up. But for hardware manufacturing, I think my knowledge is zero on that. So on that.
Yeah, same. But yeah, I think GeoGlass is something that we are also excited about. We are like, I think we have opened up a conversation with them to figure out giving exposure to a lot of the developers in the ecosystem about the platform broadly and what it supports, etc. So hopefully, fingers crossed, by next month we'll have something to announce there, maybe. So we'll see.
That's nice.
Awesome, cool. Is there a possibility that we can experience AAA game titles in VR? Ravi is asking, what do you think?
Yeah, so you can experience AAA titles inside PlayStation VR because that hardware is pretty good. I mean, there's already Resident Evil, which is for PlayStation VR. That's an amazing game, and there are a lot of other titles for PSVR. On Oculus Quest, the problem is that it's an Android-based platform. There are limitations in terms of what it can handle. But yeah, I think there too the you can come to close to maybe not AAA but double over there. But in PlayStation VR, of course, Resident Evil is.
Okay, awesome. And a little bit, I just want you to share a little bit of advice for everybody. So we get a lot of folks who are generally at some point or the other thinking about, yeah, I want to start my own game studio, right? Like you started way back in the day, you did a lot of client work, you did your own IP as well. So in today's sort of day and age, like what's the advice that if somebody is thinking about starting their own studio, what do you think their sort of go-to strategy should be?
I think just pick your strongest point, pick a single platform, and pick something that you can do. That something doesn't take away all your money from day one, right? And also have patience, right? Because I think if you stay in the grind long enough, you understand how the grind works, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But like connecting to your marketing example earlier, right? Like iOS is crowded, Apple, like Android is crowded. If you have to build games today for mobile, it's really crowded and you really need strong marketing dollars, right? So is that something from a strategy perspective you would advise folks to think around before even jumping in? Because a lot of folks have a basic understanding of building mobile games, but majority lack the idea on marketing, publishing, customer acquisition, these non-technical pieces that fall beyond just building the game itself.
So earlier what happened was that game dev was 80%, marketing was 20%. What's come down to iOS and Android, and as you rightly said, there are maybe 1,000 games releasing in a single day, right? Now development is 20%, marketing is 80%. And by marketing, I don't mean like just going on social media and saying, hey, my game is out there. I think you need to have a very strong marketing strategy for that. One of the companies I talked to way back, maybe a few years ago, their budget was $50,000 to $100,000 for marketing. I would tell them, yeah, our development budget nahi hai, right? So I think that is what happened. So maybe I think to put a general question out there, okay, if you do decide to take this step, right? If you do decide to kind of go into this, just figure out the entire thing. Okay, I'll make the game, but then what? How will I market it? How will I put it out there? Okay. I mean, even if your game has maybe downloads doesn't equal to money, right? Okay, if your game has ads, unless until you have maybe X amount of downloads or concurrent users in your game, right? Then and then only you start that entire monetization part of it, right? Having 10 users doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, right? Usually before even committing that 6 months to 1 year development time, if you have an actual strategy to, okay, I'm going to partner with a publisher or I'm going to self-publish, but this is my approach. I think having those pieces figured out early is just going to give you an ease of mind and help you channel your energy in the right way during development as well, right? So I've seen some games do really well even with self-publishing, but they took this intentional decision that we're going to continue building our community base while we are doing our development, right? So now it's not too late that, oh shit, I spent 9 months building the game, but there are 0 people who know about my game. Now what do? I have to self-publish, right? So you start building like a Discord community for your game project. You start talking about it on YouTube, other events and whatnot stuff as well. And you're doing this while you're building the game, right? So like just being very conscious about the approach I think can help you in the long run. And that's something that majority folks starting off, I know personally, I fucked up on this particular really hard, right? In my first game studio when I was doing a lot of indie games as well, because I just didn't know. So I think like these are the kind of things that, hopefully, like one of our goals with Outscal is to build that community where people can share this knowledge transparently. And I personally hope that somebody would have told me 6 years back, maybe that game studio would have been a success, but who knows? But
well, I think again to add to what you said, I think that is so true because if you make the game and then at the 8th month you decide that hey, I want to use the game next month, you cannot start marketing right there. I think you have to start marketing from day one, right? And I think you have to. I think getting players or getting community on board or getting people to talk about your game, that is the biggest thing out there. You can spend maybe $10,000 on marketing. That will not do anything at all, right? Unless until it's you yourself kind of do it.
Correct. At least when you're starting small, you have to do it. Like there's no other way, because that's when you get the real feedback from players that hey, this screenshot doesn't look good, or this control doesn't feel good at all. Right? Like you'll get that feedback only once you're, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you're doing it. As a builder, you're doing it. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and we too fucked up because we too had that thing. Hey, we made the game. Hey world, we made the game. Why not playing it? So what you have said, I think we too screwed up that time, right? And you made it, and then you're waiting for the world to play, but that's not how it works. So we too done the hard way.
Absolutely. Shruti has, I think, the favorite question always, right? Like, when we'll see will that happen anytime soon?
I think I have to ask Steven Spielberg for that. So maybe I think something like that is slowly happening. I think with the metaverse and everything. I don't know. Who knows? I think maybe the next 2 or 3 years, I think we could come maybe not exactly like it, but a bit close to it. Not that, kind of zombie apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic world, right? But something where people kind of use a headset for pretty much everything.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think within 2-3 years, we'll start seeing a lot more relevant use cases show up. But I think Ready Player One is probably a decade out, like in its actual entirety.
True.
Mridul is asking regarding hiring for VR game developers in the industry. How is it different than hiring sort of general game developers? Like, what's the take? Like, is the hiring process any different, etc.?
Right. So normally we hire, Unreal or generative developers, right? And for VR, we just make sure that they have the experience with making games on, say, Quest or Oculus Rift or any other VR device. So when they do come, because gameplay in VR is a lot different. So unless until you have experienced that, you cannot make it. If you've made a mobile game and then jump directly into VR, because you have all the space, when you just enter it, you have all the space, right? It's a totally different concept. So unless until you make for that device, you won't understand how to do it. So we generally prefer to have at least people who have made at least maybe even a small demo for VR to kind of understand how it works. Right.
Got it. And normally, like because majority folks would not have access to like a hardware kit or something, right? So what's your strategy for young talent, right? Like, should they just build it in a simulator or something, or how should they go about showcasing that on their portfolio or something?
I think a simulator works fine. Also, what would work is that Quest or HTC, they are not the only devices out there. There are other devices available for a lot lesser price, right? Which people can just use to try.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is what you can start off with. Also, just to see how it feels, because suppose someone has been making, say, Candy Crush or something like a shooter game on mobile. The same shooter game, when it comes into VR, I think it's going to have a very different kind of approach to make it. It's going to have a very different approach how to play it, right? So that same strategy won't work, because now you're in this environment where you can touch everything, you can grab everything, everything comes very close to your eyes, right? So it has to be that thing. Those things have to be thought about when making VR.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think if I remember, like there are ample cheap knockoffs, like that are available on Amazon, for like less than $10. So
Right.
if somebody's really serious about it, I definitely recommend just grabbing one of those as
Right.
disposable devices and then just building something and porting it into that platform as well.
Right.
Awesome, cool. So I think this was a very great conversation. Thanks for sharing all the insights and knowledge as well. I know we're just overshooting on time, so really appreciate you, joining us today, and would hope to, bring you back in maybe in 6 months or so again and have another catch-up call as well.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me. It was great having this talk. And again, everything. If you students have any questions, please feel free to reach out anytime.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Abhinav.
Okay, man. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Take care, guys. And thank you again for joining us. And if they have any other suggestions for like future events as well, just please let us know. Me know or Piyush know as well. So we'll really appreciate it. Right.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abhinav, for joining. Thank you, Mayank. And a short announcement for everyone in here. We have a bunch of events scheduled for upcoming few weeks in the month of March as well. So, and you can see that there are already other activities going inside the community as well. So please feel free to subscribe for the upcoming events on the top left corner of Discord community. And other than that, we have the Learn and Earn tournament that's already going on currently. So feel free to participate in that. Thank you so much, Abhinav, again for your time. Thanks, Mank. Bye-bye, everyone. See you on
and
bye, guys.
Yeah, we do appreciate you sharing your email ID in the chat as well. So guys, feel free to directly connect with Abhinav as well if you have any questions.
No worries, anyone. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.